Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins have officially pulled the trigger on one of the more intriguing off-season moves of 2025. And now, with the details of Darren Waller's contract finally revealed, we can begin to understand just how much of a calculated risk this truly is. Waller, the former Pro Bowl tight end who briefly stepped away from football following a frustrating stint with the New York Giants, has been brought in as a potential replacement for Jonnu Smith, who was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a relatively quiet day 3-pick swap. From a surface-level view, it looked like a low-risk, medium-reward move, a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. But as always in the NFL, the devil is in the details. And the finer print of Waller's deal shows us Miami isn't quite going all in on him, at least not financially. What they are investing, however, is belief in Waller's upside, if everything clicks just right. The breakdown of Darren Waller's contract tells a compelling story. Only $2 million of the deal is base salary, while the remaining $3 million is tied directly to performance-based incentives, most of which are currently classified as not likely to be earned. That terminology matters. It's standard in contract lingo for incentives that a player didn't meet the year before, and considering Waller didn't play at all last season, those thresholds could be anything from games played to receptions, yards, or touchdowns. Essentially, this contract screams, prove it. For a tight end who was once among the NFL's elite, the financial structure reflects a wait-and-see mindset from Miami. They're not committing heavily up front, and that says a lot about where Waller stands in the eyes of front office evaluators and cap strategists alike. He's got the name, he's got the history, but does he still have the game? This also shows how razor-sharp the Dolphins front office is trying to be with the cap. Miami is only losing about $1 million in cap flexibility by bringing Waller onto the top 51 roster during the offseason. That's because he's essentially bumping a player who was making roughly $1 million off the books temporarily. A classic low-cost roster gamble. But once the team trims down to 53 players, and if Waller indeed earns his spot, then the Dolphins will have some clearer decisions to make. At that point, real money becomes real risk, especially if Waller begins hitting those incentive milestones. Still, it's telling that the Dolphins didn't just throw money at a familiar name. They're clearly betting on upside, but not at the expense of long-term financial flexibility. In a league where tight ends are increasingly vital in hybrid offenses, Miami is trying to thread the needle between optimism and caution. It's easy to forget just how good Darren Waller was at his peak. Back in his Las Vegas Raiders days, he was a nightmare matchup for linebackers and safeties alike, a true mismatch weapon with 1,000-yard receiving potential and athleticism that looked more like a wide receiver than a traditional tight end. But injuries have piled up, and the last few seasons have not been kind to his durability or his consistency. Then came the unexpected retirement, or sabbatical, depending on who you ask, that left many wondering if Waller's time in the league had simply expired. And yet here we are. Miami is giving him the stage, and Waller has every reason to show that the fire still burns. His career won't get too many more restarts, and this might be his final chance to reassert himself as a game-changer. What's fascinating is how this move fits into the larger narrative of the Dolphins' 2025 strategy. They're clearly shifting gears. Trading Jonnu Smith away wasn't just a cap move, it was a signal that Miami's offense is being reshaped once again. And in that reshaping, they're hoping Waller can bring a vertical threat from the tight end spot that Smith never quite provided. Smith was more of a chain mover, a possession guy. Waller, when healthy, offers something different: explosiveness. But again, it all comes down to the "when healthy" caveat. That phrase has followed Waller around for the last 3 years, haunting every scouting report and front office meeting. It's what makes this contract so fascinating. It's a financial reflection of uncertainty masked by potential. And let's not ignore what this deal means inside the Dolphins locker room. Bringing in a veteran like Waller, even one with recent health and performance questions, sends a message. It says the front office still wants playmakers, still believes that this team can contend, and still values high-end talent, even if it comes with baggage. There's a leadership element to this, too. Waller's story, his battles with injuries and personal setbacks, could resonate deeply with younger players on this roster. And if he does make it through camp and earn a starting role, he brings with him an aura that can't be quantified by a stat sheet. But none of that matters if the body doesn't hold up. Training camp will be his first real test. and the most critical chapter in this redemption arc. If Waller does manage to reach the full $5 million of his deal, that means something very specific has happened, and it's a double-edged sword for Miami. On one hand, it could mean Waller has truly returned to form and played at a high level, possibly even rivaling his 2019 or 2020 production. On the other hand, it might also mean that something has gone wrong elsewhere, that a key pass catcher went down, or that Miami's offense needed Waller to step up in an emergency role. These incentive-laden contracts always come with that kind of ambiguity. From the team's perspective, it's ideal pay only for production. But from a broader strategic angle, Waller becoming a focal point again might suggest that Miami's original plan didn't quite work out. Whether Waller's $2 million base salary is guaranteed still hasn't been disclosed, but signs point to it being non-guaranteed or only partially guaranteed. That tracks with how the Dolphins have handled similar situations in the past, especially with players returning from significant layoff periods. If Waller comes into training camp out of shape, or if those past injuries rear their ugly heads again, Miami can walk away with minimal financial penalty. It's a safety net that protects them from repeating mistakes that other franchises have made by overcommitting too soon. But it also turns camp into a high-pressure environment for Waller. He doesn't just need to be good. He needs to be ready now. There's no luxury of easing in. The tape, the metrics, and the eyeball test will all have to align. From a fan perspective, this move is a roller coaster. On one hand, you get the excitement of adding a former Pro Bowler who at his best was one of the most dangerous tight ends in the league. On the other, there's the skepticism that naturally follows any player returning from semi-retirement and years of injury history. Can Waller still separate? Can he take a hit over the middle? Can he block well enough to stay on the field in a run-heavy package? The questions aren't small, and neither are the expectations. For Dolphins fans desperate to see this team finally get over the playoff hump, Waller represents a wild card. A player who could either fade into irrelevance by mid-season or explode back onto the scene with highlight reel moments that fuel Miami's offensive engine. Ultimately, this deal encapsulates the delicate art of NFL roster construction in the modern era. It's a low-cap, low-risk maneuver that still carries a whiff of high-reward potential. The Dolphins are banking on Darren Waller being the kind of player who can resurrect his career and elevate an already potent offense. They're doing it smartly without handcuffing themselves financially. And Waller, he's got the rare opportunity to rewrite the final chapter of his NFL story on his own terms. It's the type of storyline you don't often get in professional sports: the veteran comeback, the strategic gamble, and the tantalizing unknown. If everything breaks right, both sides could walk away as winners. But until the pads go on and the season kicks off, all we've got are projections, possibilities, and the hope that Darren Waller still has one last big year left in him. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments what's your take on the Fins this week. SAQUON Barkley, the electrifying running back known for his explosiveness and elusive style, has just set the NFL rumor mill on fire. According to sources close to the situation, Barkley was seen in Miami earlier this week, sparking immediate speculation about his future. But things took a wild turn when a respected NFL journalist went public claiming the deal between Barkley and the Miami Dolphins is not only in motion, it's already done. While nothing has been confirmed by the Dolphins organization, fans and insiders are connecting the dots with growing confidence. Barkley, who entered free agency with several teams reportedly interested, may have chosen the sunshine and fast-paced offense of South Florida. And with the Dolphins looking to strengthen their backfield, the timing couldn't be more intriguing. Is this a done deal or just the kind of off-season smoke that keeps fans guessing? Miami has always been a hotspot, not just for nightlife and warm weather, but for off-season NFL buzz. When Barkley was spotted landing at Miami International Airport, it didn't take long for photos to surface online. Within hours, sports blogs and NFL fan pages lit up with speculation. Was it a vacation, a business meeting, or something much bigger? The images show Barkley exiting a black SUV near the Dolphins training facility dressed in casual gear, but clearly in no rush. Eyewitnesses report he was seen speaking with someone believed to be a team executive, which added more fuel to the fire. And then came the real shocker. An established beat reporter with inside connections confidently tweeted that the contract is already signed. That's right. According to this journalist, SAQUON Barkley is now a Miami Dolphin. If true, this is a seismic move for the franchise, both in talent and narrative. Of course, the Dolphins haven't released a statement, and Barkley's camp has remained silent. Classic moves in a league that thrives on controlled leaks and calculated timing. But what makes this rumor hard to ignore is how perfectly it fits into the Dolphins' offseason strategy. Miami has been aggressive in building around quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and while their wide receiver room is elite, the run game has lacked a true workhorse. Enter Barkley. A healthy SAQUON could completely redefine this offense, giving defenses nightmares about whether to stack the box or cover deep threats like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The schematic potential is tantalizing. If this rumor proves true, Miami just became one of the scariest defensive units in the league, and Barkley might have just found the perfect place to reignite his career. Is this a power move in the making or just a mirage? And the Miami Heat fans on social media are going wild, as you'd expect. Dolphins faithful are already mocking up jerseys with Barkley's name, while Giants fans are still processing the emotional roller coaster of potentially losing their former star. And yet this kind of chaos is exactly what makes the NFL offseason such a spectacle. One moment you're debating draft prospects, the next you're wondering if your team just pulled off the biggest free agent coup of the year. Barkley's presence in Miami isn't just about football, it's about momentum, headlines, and hype. The Dolphins know how to command attention, and adding a player like SAQUON would send shockwaves across the AFC East. Could this also signal a philosophical shift in Miami's offensive balance? They've leaned heavily on the pass, but Barkley's arrival could change that dynamic in an instant. It's all rumor for now, but something about this feels different, more real, more immediate. Some analysts are pointing to Barkley's injury history as a reason for skepticism. After all, he's missed significant time in past seasons and hasn't consistently been at his 2018 rookie form. But let's not forget what Barkley is capable of when healthy. His combination of speed, power, and vision makes him one of the most dynamic backs in the league. The Dolphins training staff has a solid track record with player health, and a well-managed workload could be the key to unlocking Barkley's full potential again. Plus, imagine him splitting touches in an offense that doesn't force him to carry the full load every week. It's the kind of setup that could extend his career and boost his impact. If the Dolphins truly believe in him, then this rumored signing could be as much about long-term planning as immediate gains. That's the kind of strategic depth contenders build with, not just flashy moves. What about the money? That's the big question looming in the background. Saquon Barkley isn't coming cheap, especially after declining offers from the Giants that didn't meet his valuation. But Miami has been creative with their cap management, and recent restructures have created some breathing room. A deal structured with incentives and smart guarantees could satisfy both sides. Think shorter-term high upside, perhaps a 2- or 3-year contract with performance bonuses and team options. If Barkley performs, he gets paid. If not, Miami isn't tied down long-term. It's a calculated risk, and one that elite teams often have to take. Plus, Barkley brings marketability. He's a name, a brand, and a player who moves merchandise and headlines. That kind of presence goes a long way in a market like Miami. Financially and strategically, this move actually makes more sense than it seems on the surface. Then there's the locker room angle. Barkley is respected around the league not just for his talent, but for his leadership and character. Teammates have spoken highly of him, coaches rave about his professionalism, and he's known as someone who sets the tone in the weight room and on the field. For a Dolphins team on the cusp of greatness, but still looking for that final emotional push, Barkley could be the locker room voice that bridges the gap. Pair him with Mike McDaniel's innovative system and a roster full of explosive talent, and you've got a recipe for something special. And let's not ignore the emotional boost it gives the fan base. Signing Barkley would send a loud and clear message: Miami is not content with being pretty good. They want to win now. These kinds of statements matter in the psyche of a franchise. Maybe, just maybe, this is the signal that the Dolphins are all in. As for Barkley himself, the Miami lifestyle could be a huge factor. The city offers not just weather, but branding opportunities, endorsements, and a scene that aligns with the modern athlete's off-field ambitions. From a business perspective, the move makes sense. Barkley could elevate his profile significantly in South Florida, where sports celebrities often thrive beyond the game. It's not just about touchdowns. It's about exposure, partnerships, and legacy. Think about what LeBron James did when he took his talents to South Beach. Barkley may not be LeBron, but the blueprint of turning Miami into a personal brand accelerator is very real. If the Dolphins are offering him a strong on-field role and a platform off the field, that might have been all he needed to say yes. It's easy to dismiss that kind of motivation, but in today's NFL, players think bigger than just the playbook. Barkley could be following that very play. Of course, there's always a chance this is all smoke and mirrors. The NFL offseason is filled with misdirections and calculated leaks. Maybe Barkley was in Miami for another reason entirely: charity work, personal business, or even a family trip. We've seen players visit cities with no intention of signing there, only for rumors to spiral out of control. But when there's this much smoke, it's hard not to wonder if there's fire. The journalist who broke the deal is done claim isn't known for throwing wild speculation. That tweet was specific, confident, and unwalked back. That adds weight to the possibility. Until official confirmation arrives, we're living in a space between excitement and uncertainty, which is exactly where the NFL loves to keep its fans. If it turns out to be true, this could be the off-season headline everyone remembers. If not, it still shows how powerful even a glimpse of Barkley in Miami can be. In the end, this might be the kind of moment that defines the off-season, not just for the Dolphins, but for Saquon Barkley himself. A fresh chapter, a fresh scheme, and a city ready to embrace him. Miami fans are already dreaming of Sundays filled with Barkley highlights, game-breaking runs, and playoff implications. And while we wait for official word, the excitement is real. It's the kind of buzz that keeps sports alive during the quiet months, that reminds fans why they stay plugged in 24/7. Could Barkley be the final piece of the Dolphins' puzzle? Could Miami be the perfect launchpad for his comeback story? Nothing is confirmed, but everything feels possible. And in the NFL, possibility is where every great story begins. For now, all eyes are on South Beach. Saquon Barkley, Miami Dolphin. It's not official yet, but it sure sounds like it could be very, very real. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.